Good night to all the patrons of the Bad Lake Shop. Good night to all within the hearing of my voice, including my cousins just short down the road. I want to thank you for coming out tonight. As the Democratic Labour Party mounts its platform in what clearly is the battleground box of this 2022 election. Crab Hill, you very likely will be critical in determining this election. I chose to put my campaign office in Crab Hill so that they would all know how serious I am about bringing these boxes home for the Democratic Labour Party. I'm not conceding any. And I don't care how many times the outgoing Prime Minister comes and walks about in Crab Hill. All that says is how nervous they are tonight, and how nervous they are tomorrow, and how they're going to be quaking in their boots on the 19th of January as the people head to Sela in their numbers from Crab Hill and vote for meaningful representation in this constituency. Because it is too long now. 3.5 years is way too long for somebody to be promising you on a regular to produce a flyer with 8 points on it as to what you intend to do. And then 3.5 later, you can't tick off one. And then got the nerve to come and ask for the vote again. But can't come by himself. He gotta walk out with the auntie. But not me. I can walk about here by myself. Because when I walk about Crab Hill, I am walking among my own. And I am walking among people that I have already done for. I am not here to tell you what I do for people. That is their personal business. But each of you will know how you've been touched already, and I ain't even get there yet. And you pay a man because, yes, he got paid. You pay a man to go and stand up in the house, or rather to sit down in the house, because nobody knows what he said in 3.5 years. In 3.5 years. And you're not even accustomed to that kind of representation. I want to take a moment and thank my comrade Dennis Kelman for giving me my political legs. It was on the pasture at Checker Hall, and there's a reason I went back there on the pasture in Checker Hall, that he gave me my first national moment, and I have not looked back. I have spent my entire life given to this country, and I have never done it for glory. When I sat at CBC too early in the morning and too late at night, giving freely of my expertise, it was because I understood that my people needed to know what their rights were. And it could not be that my country educated me and I couldn't give back. And it cannot be that St. Lucie gave birth to me and I cannot give back to St. Lucie. This is an election like no other. 2018 was one sort of landmark. This is where the records are really going to be made, because there will be so many one-term seats after the 19th of January, when the Democratic Labour Party takes up a position on behalf of the people of Barbados one more time. Because in the last 3.5 years, you in St. Lucie have experienced a thing that you've never had before. You have had an MP and no representative. You have had water issues. And the last administration had put some things in place. The water mains replacement program started. They came in and they stopped it. Hope the Sal plant, they let that run to ruin. They fenced around an area in Colleton. They haven't done another thing with it. And every day you open your taps and some sort of color coming out of it. Not usable. But you still pay your water bill. Because y'all are law-abiding citizens here in Crab Hill. And every month you pay this bill and get no proper service. And your MP, because he was not your representative, your MP sitting in that ministry and can't picky teeth for the people of Crab Hill and St. Lucie. And that is what you're expected to vote for again on the 19th of January. It cannot be. It cannot be. And the roads in St. Lucie as bad as ever. At least Crab Hill has the ZRs coming in. But your sisters and brothers and Hannahs and Trents and Allendale and all on the eastern side of St. Lucie can't get any proper bus service. And guess what? Your MP, because he was not your representative, sitting in that ministry, warm in a seat, and can't do a thing for the people of St. Lucie. Because for some people, this is a position. And for others, like me, this is a service. I have a legal practice. I don't have to do this. And I won't blow my own trumpet, but I have a successful legal practice. I don't have to do this. But my people are buried deep in my bosom, and their suffering burns me. And as I drive through St. Lucie in my campaign, and before I came to St. Lucie, coming every week back to Northumberland, I can see how my people have been neglected. And I can see how they only want somebody to stand up on their behalf. And tonight, Crab Hill, I give you my solemn promise. Just like how I have represented some of you before, I am prepared to represent all of you. Because it does not matter. At the end of the day, we are not here to divide one another. It is not by accident, nor is it a gimmick that the Democratic Labour Party chose as its motto, One Barbados. In the last 3.5 years, like no other time, we have watched the tearing apart of our society. We have watched the ripping of the seams of all that has made this society dear. We have seen crime run away from us. They appointed an extra deputy. We couldn't see any plans coming forward. They appointed a past commissioner. We can see any change happening because there was no political will to make a difference in the lives of the people of Barbados. All they wanted to do was to lock you up for longer periods and keep you on bail for longer. When the social issues that brought us to this point are staring us in the face, and are crying out for a resolution. And we can't find work for our young people to do. And they got to leave St. Lucie and head to somewhere else to do their training. When we have space here where we could set up skills training for our young people. But we can't get the concepts in the heads of those who say they want to leave. Because for them, it is a position. It is a CV building exercise and not about a nation building exercise. And that is the fundamental difference. The fundamental difference about bringing proper representation to St. Lucie. So when I speak about the utilities and the water and the roads and all that is bad, that is not what your representative is doing as a favor to you. That is what you pay taxes for. You pay your water bill. You pay, it used to be road tax. You now pay double, if not more, in fuel tax. Matter of fact, you paying it now if you only cutting grass. That is your due. That is not a favor to you. When you elect persons to stand in your place, it is with intent that they do your will, not that they impose your will on you. And for God's sake, it is definitely not that they ignore you, because that is what St. Lucie has been suffering. And I know that there are some among you who are long-standing voting for the other side. But this is an election that needs to remove the emotion from the situation and calls for a proper evaluation of where we are at this present moment. And if it is that you cannot answer the question, are you better off now than you were in 2018 with a yes? Then on the 19th of January, when you go to the polls at Sela, Crab Hill, there is only one option at the top of the ballots. Verla Greaves De Peiza. They had a lot of long talk about my name. But if they weren't lazy and behaving like Trump, they would have gone to the registry and see what my parents decided to call me. I didn't pick the name. And I am proudly a Greaves, and I am proudly a De Peiza, and I am proud of the fact that both of them have roots in St. Lucie, and that I was allowed to have my roots in St. Lucie, because running across the hills of North Point, picking up rocks and almost getting washed over the cliff at Sandy Hill and having the bruises to prove it have made me who I am. And watching my family give selfless service to this country has made me who I am. And seeing my people suffering has made me commit to this parish. There is time for change. And that time has come to Barbados. And St. Lucie and Crab Hill, you have that moment in time on the 19th of January. When you go out in your numbers and you vote for a representative, not just an MP, not someone who's coming around at the last minute after the bell is rung to beg for a vote, but someone who came around amongst you before the elections were due, got to know you, got to know your families, got to know your pets. This is how you build a lasting relationship. This is not just for the moment. but this is for as long as you will have me speaking on your behalf. And you know me to be a fearless speaker. You've heard me speak up on difficult topics. Before it was the sweetheart deal of the day, I was the lone voice in the wilderness calling for revolution in terms of marijuana use in this country. Because I recognized that too many of our young people were falling through the cracks simply on the basis of simple use of marijuana. They couldn't get a clean police certificate of character, and therefore they couldn't get a decent job. And that really is at the root of self-respect. That you can face your family frontally and be able to support them. You know too that I was strong enough to stand up when I thought we were going the wrong way with certain pieces of legislation in Parliament, and to speak up even though mine was the government of the day. And you know as well that I had no difficulty when my party was on its knees in 2018 to step out and do what was necessary to whip it into shape in the smallest period of time, so that in 2022, when a snap election is called and they feel that we weren't ready, we had 30 candidates to field. We had a manifesto to present that was so credible that it had them calling a press conference. They can't even call one to press their own initiatives to the people of Barbados, but they could call one about the Democratic Labour Party's manifesto. And that is because they understood that we got it, that we had spent our time on the ground with the people, and that we understood what was at the root of their problems and their concerns, and that we had gone back to the drawing board and found solutions that would resonate with the people. And all that they could come to you and say is that we can't afford it. But they could afford to write off debts for companies that owed VAT, collected VAT. But they can't afford to invest in the people of Barbados. What you trying to tell me? You can afford $300 million for the tourism sector as a boost, and you can't afford to invest in the people of Barbados? They mean that little to you? That's what they're really trying to tell you? You can't afford the provisions in the Democratic Labour Party manifesto, but you could pay $54 million a month to White Oak? You mean that little to them? It is the responsibility of government to invest in its people. And that is why the manifesto of the Democratic Labour Party is so structured. That first it gives a framework. This is what we are going to work within. We are not going to step out of those parameters. First pages set the framework. And then we set about with provisions for businesses and provisions for people. Because the businesses can't function if the people don't have wherewithal. And the people can't function if their families are suffering. And both of them, both with the flesh and the blood and the corporate citizens, matter in the building of our country. It is not one without the other. It is one Barbados. And tonight, Crab Hill, I am here to tell you that the Democratic Labour Party is not afraid to invest in its people. And that is why we know because we haven't heard a single economist come out and say, I beg your pardon, a single economist who is not on the payroll of government come out and say that it is unworkable. It has them trembling in their boots. I encourage you to read it. I encourage you to go online and see what those provisions are. Because we have decided that our people must get through and not just scrape by. Our people must live and not just exist. Our people's dreams have got to see the light of day. And it cannot happen. It cannot happen if you are forced into austerity. And I want them to come and tell the people of Barbados what are those hard decisions that they have to make after the elections, that they want you to vote on now, but you have no idea what they are. I want them to come and tell you if they intend to extend the IMF arrangement. I want them to come and tell you if they are caving into the pressure by the IMF to reform pensions. And what that means is really to cut the pension. Let's be real. I've never seen them reform anything and increase the amount that individuals are getting. And the reason why we have to be mindful of this is because you are being asked to make a decision on the 19th of January, but you are not being given the information to allow you to vote for that other side. And that is how the Democratic Labour Party has set itself apart, because we have given you that information in our manifesto. And we blazed a trail in this country, hot under the collar, to move towards a republic, doing all that we can to erase the legacy of our borough, bringing down a whole building that was one of the most sound architecturally and engineering-wise in Bridgetown, the old BNB building, to put up a park across the road from a park. Think about it. Independence Square is a park. And so you know have two parks facing one another. And they put Republic Day on our sacred Independence Day as though we would ever forget. And then they move us towards a republic that they have not taken a moment to explain to us. And the reason why this matters, Crab Hill, is because there are different types of republic. And I don't want to scare you, but let me just tell you too. Trinidad is a republic, but so too is North Korea. What kind of republic are you being asked to vote for on the 19th of January? I have read the manifesto of the other side and I can't find it. I have written, along with others, the manifesto of the Democratic Labour Party, and I can tell you that our roadmap telling you what type of republic you will get is in our manifesto, because we have heard you. We have heard your concerns about being left out of conversations in this country and being expected to rest on an X every so often, and that is not enough for you. You want to have a greater say in your own destiny, and so we have carved out a space for you, not just in terms of an elected Senate, not just in terms of getting to choose the president, but bringing back constituency government to Barbados. because that allowed more of you to have an involvement in what was happening in your communities. And it cannot be that you expect to be lorded over and that you are satisfied with that. We have set out what we intend. And if this election has not told you anything, fortunately one of the provisions in our manifesto was fixed terms. Because this calling elections and the fly-by-night needs to be corrected. But if there's one thing those of us who have ever read the Bible, whether it is for religious purposes or for recreation or because it is simply a good manual to pattern your life by, will know that you like the land, having stored up the oil and making provisions for rainy days. Those stories are lessons in life about how you live in the times of plenty by storing up for the lean times. And our manifesto now has that built in as part of our financial plan going forward, that there will be a ceiling on borrowing every year so that the wildcat loan grab that we have watched take place to our horror in the last 3.5 years will come to an end. It doesn't halt our development. It makes our development happen at a pace that we can manage. Because $2 billion borrowed in 3.5 years at a time when our revenues are down, never mind the boast about our foreign reserves that we know is that same borrowed money that's rested down. But the day of reckoning for the pain of that is literally months away from now. And there is no plan articulated for the payment. But it has to be faced. Because we have to develop ourselves now. But we have to leave the room for our children to also develop themselves as the world changes. And tonight, I am pleased not only to be the representative for St. Lucie going forward, because I know you will make that change come the 19th of January. But to lead a party that has demonstrated the ability to transform itself in a short space of time, and therefore to be in a position to recommend itself to you as being capable of transforming Barbados in a short space of time. And you will recall that the Democratic Labour Party made its adjustments without having the government subvention. We got our changes made on the skinniest of budgets, and that, my friends, is testament to how we can do it for the entire country. And so, Crab Hill, those of you who have already decided to rest your eggs down for me and for the Democratic Labour Party, and by extension for Barbados, I thank you from now. And for those of you who are still making up your minds, I urge you not just to listen to me, but to read that manifesto and digest it and understand the plan that the Democratic Labour Party has for Barbados. And I am certain that by Wednesday morning, you too will be lining up to rest your eggs for that change, and for me, and for the Democratic Labour Party, and for Barbados. And for those of you who remain unconvinced and loyal to the other side, all I ask of you is one question. Are you better off now than you were in 2018? And I want that to reverberate in your brain and in your very being as you walk from your home to Sela. And I want you to think long and hard about whether or not you got the representation that you deserve. And if your answer to either one is no, let your conscience be your guide as you step into that box. And I want all of you to take good care of yourselves at a time when it is clear that the outgoing government does not care about you, despite what they say on a poster, and that you are not safer with them, despite what they say on a poster, because they bring you out in a pandemic, in a state of emergency for an unnecessary election. But look for the good in it and go out in your numbers. Stay safe between now and then. Keep away from COVID as much as you can. But go out, masked up, with your hand sanitizer, your own pen or pencil. Stand in the line. Go early, because I watched, and all the sanitizing that needs to be done will take some time. Go early and be patient. Stand 6 feet from the person in front of you, but with resolution and determination. Mark that X for change. Mark that X next to the box with the name Verla Greaves De Peiza. Vote for one Barbados. Vote for change. Vote for a future that you can depend on. And I look forward in the turning in night of the 19th and going forward to be able to celebrate with you as your new representative, your servant, and a long relationship ahead of us. I thank you.